Hi everybody, GT here from GT's Barbecue. I wanted to do a short video today on barbecue sauces. I had a friend, Phil in Florence, I'll put a link to his channel down below, send me some homemade sauce. Thanks, Biff. This is a Carolina pork and chicken vinegar sauce. And I had never had a vinegar-based barbecue sauce before. So I did some research and I learned there are basically 5 regional mother barbecue sauces that people use depending on where they're born, where they're raised, what they're used to. If you're in certain parts of the country and you think of barbecue, you're going to think of one of these sauces. So I decided it might be fun to make a quick batch of each. I'm just going to do a basic recipe on them. You can take them, make them your own, do whatever you want. But it was pretty interesting to me. So I'm going to get started on these and we'll see you here in a minute. I also wanted to call some attention to a collaboration cook that's going to be on August the 24th, and it's going to be titled #Cooking Against Cancer. This is kind of a tribute to anyone who's fought cancer, fighting cancer, or who's lost the battle with cancer. So it's a real basic thing. Just pick somebody that you choose and cook a meal for them. Let them pick whatever they want. It can be franks and beans, it can be BLT, it can be ribs, whatever they choose. And we're going to drop these videos on August 24th. So if you so choose, please join in that. Do a cook for somebody, and I'll get started on these sauces in a minute. The first sauce I'm going to do today is a black barbecue sauce found primarily in Kentucky. Apparently they eat a lot of mutton in Kentucky. It's pretty gamey meat. So this is a Worcestershire based sauce that tends to cut the flavor of the meat a little bit, and I hear it's delicious, so we'll see what we get. Okay, let's get started on this Kentucky black sauce. I'm going to start out with 2 cups of water. I'm going to bring this to a boil. Get that started. Try not to burn my whisk. Next, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. My sugar was a little bit hard in the bag, so it's definitely packed. 1/2 cup Worcestershire sauce, which is where it gets its blackness from, and the acidity in that will really help cut the gaminess of the mutton. 1/2 cup apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice, except mine is from a bottle, so it was freshly squeezed at one point. 1 teaspoon kosher salt, and I have a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of white pepper, and a 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, all mixed together here. Put that all in at once. Give this a stir. I'm going to bring this up to a boil and then simmer it for about 10 minutes, and we'll see what we get. Okay, I've had this Kentucky black sauce. I brought it to a rolling boil and let it simmer for about 10, almost 15 minutes. It's still very loose, as you can see. I'm going to let it cool. And these flavors are going to cut well against the gaminess of the mutton. I guess it would be good on any game meat. You could use it on venison or elk or whatever. I'm going to do an elk video coming up here soon, so I might give it a try. I'll put this in the fridge, let it cool down, and we'll give it a taste here in a little bit. When most people think of barbecue sauce, they think of more of a red sweet sauce, like you'll find in Memphis, Kansas City, and St. Louis. This is pretty much more traditional, what you're going to find in most stores. So we're going to do up a basic one of these that you can tweak however you want, and we'll see what we get here in a second. Okay, this is going to be more of the traditional sauce, at least the one that I'm used to. You're going to find this more Memphis, St. Louis, Kansas City, Texas, of course. And same thing, we're going to bring this to a boil. We'll get the heat on. I'm going to start with a cup of water. cup of ketchup. A half of a cup of loosely packed brown sugar, a third of a cup of apple cider vinegar, a little more acidity in there, 1.5 tablespoons of molasses, a little more sweetness, and it'll give it a little bit more of a rich, dark color. More what you're used to seeing. And I've got a tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of chili powder, a tablespoon of fresh cracked pepper, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, and 1 teaspoon of celery salt. And I've got those all combined here already in one little bowl. So let's get this up to a boil. And once it boils, probably about the same, I'll let it simmer. Just let it simmer until it gets to the thickness you like. Obviously, the more you let it reduce, the thicker it'll be. And it really helps combine all those flavors. So I'm going to let that get up to heat, and we'll be back in a second. Okay, so I have this, I guess you'd call it a red sauce, a nice sweet and spicy sauce. I brought it to a boil, let it simmer for about pretty close to 15 minutes on this one. If you want it a little bit thicker, obviously you just reduce it a little bit more, but it's going to thicken up once it cools off. So this would be good on pulled pork, ribs, chicken. I'm kind of a purist. I guess technically it could be put on beef or brisket, but in my world, if you need to put sauce on brisket, you just ruined a 15-hour cook. So do whatever you want, do what you like, and we'll get on to the next one. Next, we're going to move to South Carolina with their mustard-based sauce. The story goes, this is due mostly to a lot of German immigrants that populated that area, immigrated there, and they like mustard. So the sauce evolved, and we'll give it a try here and see what it tastes like. Okay, let's get started on this mustard sauce. I'm going to start out with 1.5 cups of plain old yellow mustard. I'm going to put in 1/2 cup apple cider vinegar, 1/2 cup honey. Got some really good fresh honey at the farmer's market yesterday. So this is going to be good. Put that in there. Then we're going to go with a tablespoon of brown sugar. I'm using turbinado sugar here. My brown sugar is hard as a rock, so I think this is going to be a nice substitute for that. 1 tablespoon ketchup. And then we have 1 teaspoon black pepper, 1 teaspoon white pepper, 1/2 teaspoon kosher salt, 1/2 teaspoon garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon cayenne pepper, and I have these all mixed together already. I'm gonna put that in there. Do a little whiskaroo, technical term. And this particular sauce doesn't have to be heated or cooked. So I'll be leaving this in the fridge overnight to let the flavors come together. I've not had a sauce like this before, so I'm looking forward to it. My understanding is it's really good on French fries, onion rings, of course, sausages, hot dogs, pork chops, anything you'd like to put mustard on. So really easy to do. Again, no cooking. Mix it up, let it set, and then probably before you serve it, you'd go ahead and warm it up before you put it on any meat. So I'll get this stirred up here, get it in a container, and we'll get on to the next one. Next, we're going to move to the Eastern Carolinas with their vinegar-based sauce. Apparently, the purists will tell you all you need to make this is apple cider vinegar, a little salt, and a little crushed red pepper. I am going to add a few other ingredients based on some recipes I saw to tweak it just a little bit to my taste, but I think it's going to be delicious, so let's get to cooking. Okay, now we're going to get started with the Eastern Carolina vinegar sauce. Once again, the purists are going to tell you that all you need is apple cider vinegar, a little salt, and a little crushed pepper. I've added a couple of things here based on a recipe that I saw. I'm going to give it some ketchup, a little more acidity in there. I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Again, a little more acidity. And then I'm going to add a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 1½ teaspoons brown sugar, 1 teaspoon kosher salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of freshly cracked pepper. I did not use the pepper flakes in this case. And this is ready to roll just as it is. It's a pretty thin sauce. It's going to be really good on pork chops as a base for your ribs, chopped pork. This really looks delicious, and once again, it's ready to go. No cooking, just stir this up a little bit. I'll probably let it set for half hour or so. I guess you could heat it up before you put it on if you want, but room temperature is probably just fine. Get these ingredients mixed up, and we'll move on to the next one. Alabama, specifically northern Alabama, is known for its mayonnaise-based white sauce. I've never had this before. I hear it's quite popular there. I've been told it's delicious, so I'm going to give that a try here in a sec, and we'll see what we get. Okay, now we're going to move to Alabama with some Alabama white sauce, another sauce I have not had. I'm going to start out with 1/2 cup of mayonnaise here. I wish I had Duke's mayonnaise to make it official, but I don't. And then I've got 2 tablespoons of water, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, all mixed together here. Add some acidity, and for the dry ingredients, I've got a teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Gonna add all this. Oh, and some brown sugar, sorry. I have a tablespoon of brown sugar in there as well. I use the turbinado. Once again, this is a sauce you don't have to cook. I'm going to let it sit in the fridge, certainly overnight, so these flavors can mix. Obviously, anything you don't bring to a boil, you want to give it plenty of time for these flavors to render together. This is going to be really good on chicken wings, chicken, and I understand as a secret ingredient for potato salad or shrimp salad. So I'll get this finished up, put it in a container, get it in the fridge, and we'll give it a test here in a little bit. Okay, I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. There's no right way or wrong way to do these. I hope you'll use them as a template to experiment on your own. You may find something new. I'm looking forward to trying to level up my game this year and maybe come up with some new flavors of my own. So thanks so much for watching. If you're so inclined, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.